Hello everyone and welcome back to a slightly different video today. Yes, F125 has been out for a little over a month now, and I think it's safe to say, despite pretty much everybody I spoke to in the build up to the game, it's actually been a bit of a success. I think genuinely people have been quite surprised with just how popular F125 has been so far. Now, I've played the game for a little over 200 hours inside that first month. Yes, that is a slightly scary fact. But yeah, I've played obviously through Breaking Point. I've done near enough 2 seasons of My Team Career Mode, the all-new updates to that. I've done basically a season of Driver Career Mode. I've dabbled a bit online. I've done co-op with Gary and a few other bits and pieces. The main point is I've pretty much played everything there is to play inside F125. Now, today though, the main purpose of this video is I'm going to go through 5 changes I think EA still need to make. Now, they are doing a pretty good job about bringing updates, fixing glitches and kind of things that are slightly imbalanced inside the game. So this video I'm going to try and focus more on kind of bigger changes that would need to be made that can't really be implemented into F125 but probably should be implemented into the future. Of course, as always, timestamps will be linked down in the description below if you just want to head to a certain part of this video. But yeah, I mean, first of all though, let's just talk about the positives. F124 had a peak player count throughout its entire kind of life cycle, if you will, of 13,327 according to SteamDB. F125 has already smashed that, 16,304. That, I don't think we've had any free-to-play weekends or anything like that yet. I would genuinely expect that number to go above 20k if we get like a free-to-play weekend. Now, I don't think it's quite going to hit the same highs as like F1 2020 or F1 21 did. You know, those games were just kind of beyond popular that I don't think we'd ever really seen, and quite possibly I don't think ever will see again inside the F1 space. But yeah, I mean, the highs are much higher with F125 than we saw on F124. The kind of ratings and reviews from players as well. Currently, it's at an 84% positive rating at 4,500 reviews. F124 sat at 71%, and actually I think that figure went up over time as kind of more casuals picked up the game. It was safe to say people didn't really like F124. Now, EA have done a great job in kind of fixing some of the bugs. You know, the biggest one I think for everybody was, one, the handling model was terrible. Kind of that flick steering that you had to implement inside F124 was not fun. It was not popular. It was annoyingly quick though. And number 2, especially in career mode, was just how bad ERS trains were as well. Because, I mean, you could basically get an entire field just following each other around, lap after lap after lap. And basically your only strategy was to sit behind the car in front until the very last lap, save up your ERS, and then go for an overtake. Those kind of things have been massively kind of tweaked and changed. Now, DRS, ERS is still, you know, an important component inside F125, but yeah, it's nowhere near as kind of prominent as it was inside F124 as well there, which, you know, is good to kind of see, you know, that these things have been changed ready for F125 as well then. But obviously, the big thing coming into this year's game was My Team, you know, My Team 2.0, kind of the whole built from the ground up change ready for F125. I'll be honest, I think genuinely, from playing the game for a little while, it's probably been the biggest disappointment inside F125 for one main reason and one main reason only. You can't drive yourself anymore. I understand, you know, and EA kind of came out saying this, that it wasn't realistic, you know, nobody is an owner-driver anymore inside the sport, but it just doesn't really work. I think for a lot of people, you basically either are in a situation where, like I did in Season 1 of Career Mode, I basically was Callum Voyston for the entire season, or during Season 2, my goal has been to try and get both Yuki Tsunoda and Isaac Hadjar into the top 10 overall by the end of the World Championship. You kind of have to play in like one of those 2 modes. Honestly, I think the meta, if you just want to obviously do the best you can in career mode, is spend all your money trying to get like a Max Verstappen or a Charles Leclerc or a Lando Norris inside the game, and then you driving as like an F2 driver or someone really cheap, and obviously trying to basically use both of those drivers together to score the most points you can. You are basically the F2 driver, and then you're hoping that your AI teammate is going to be able to do really well. I think for F126, My Team 2.0 is an absolutely fantastic kind of groundwork for this year's game, but give people the option of being their own driver again. You know, being allowed to race as yourself inside the games, I think was a lot more popular. And I think it's kind of been why we've seen My Team 2.0 probably not being as popular as everybody thought it would be inside this year's game. Now, in terms of kind of other things, of course, I know I'm kind of, you know, haven't built up like a World Championship winning team yet or anything like that, but there are a couple of other tweaks and changes I would make to the My Team 2.0 career mode as well. Number one, cash flow is far too easy inside the game. I would say, you know, I've got like $30 million sat in the bank right now as we get towards the end of Season 2. I would honestly suggest that they double the price of drivers, as, you know, a Max Verstappen, someone like that, could cost upwards of $80 million. He shouldn't be that attainable, or at least give us the option of kind of normal driver contract pricing and, like, hardcore driver contract pricing, you know, where Verstappen, if you just want to play the game a bit more casually, is attainable. You know, you can have him as a teammate if you want to, or as one of your drivers if you want to, but he should absolutely break the bank. For a team like mine, where we are at inside the game, you know, we should be able to afford him, but we've got to make a huge amount of sacrifices to obviously bring the Dutchman into the team or something like that. So I would say, yeah, for driver contracts, I would double the price of everybody for like a hardcore mode inside the game. And upgrade facility upgrade costs as well. I would go as far to triple or even quadruple the price of those. But again, just because they're far too easy, you know, you're building, you know, you're coming in from the ground up. I understand a lot of people want to just play 2, maybe 3 seasons of career mode, but there should be a hardcore option, you know, for those of us that are going to do 6, 7, maybe even the full 10 seasons that the game has to offer. So I think, you know, making that cash flow a lot more difficult, making it, you know, a lot more rewarding, or, you know, a lot bigger gamble almost as well. You know, like I said, you know, if you want to try and spend all of your money on Max Verstappen, and then he wants to retire at the end of next season and you're in big trouble, that kind of should be an element inside the game as well. And that kind of feeds nicely into the other big change I would make inside F125 My Team as well. I want to see bigger, more aggressive rule cycles. Again, I feel like this should be an option between like normal and hardcore mode. But what I want to see is you get to like the end of a season of career mode. They go, right, we've got these massive rule changes. There is nothing you can do to save, say, 6 upgrades on the chassis side of things, or there's nothing you can do with any of the aero upgrades you've got on the car. You know, again, it should be an option that you can kind of enable in career mode, that some upgrades just cannot be saved, and other upgrades obviously can be, because, again, you know, a lot of people are going to be playing the game a lot more casually, and, you know, if you get to the end of a season, you've got a really good car, and suddenly you get absolutely screwed over, some people aren't going to be a fan of that, and that's fair enough as well. But I do think, you know, they need to kind of steer the game, or at least give kind of hardcore players a bit more of an option, with a bit more jeopardy that will hopefully make the game a bit more interesting as well. You know, as we've seen throughout Season 2 of My Career Mode, Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari, and arguably Williams and ourselves have got such a gap over the rest of the teams that it's kind of become, you know, those big 4 teams are taking points basically every weekend if none of their cars break down. And then, you know, us, Williams, Aston Martin, we're basically just trying to fight for the scraps most weekends, unless we've got a circuit that I feel really, really strong at as well inside the game. So kind of giving us a bit more jeopardy. I think they've done a great job on F125 of kind of, you know, allowing the option for some utterly ridiculous driver moves as well. You know, I've seen Hamilton retire, I've seen Hamilton go to Red Bull alongside Max Verstappen. Those kind of things I think are really, really cool, and I think, you know, we need to get some of that craziness implemented into other game modes inside the game as well. I did briefly mention as well there, kind of about one of the other most important changes they need to make. Now, this is going to be a much bigger kind of from the ground up, you know, update to the game. It's something we've moaned about now for so many years. AI difficulty. They need to kind of rejig the way the AI work around some circuits. Now, for example, a track like Spa, I always find, you know, Spa's one of my best tracks, but I do think the AI are far too slow around circuits like Belgium, circuits like Australia. Generally, the more kind of high-speed orientated tracks the AI are really, really slow at. But then on the other hand, Silverstone they're ridiculously OP. Miami, Shanghai, and I would say Kota. Those are the 4 tracks in F125 that personally I think the AI are hilariously OP at. Like, not even fun, kind of just how quick they are around the circuits. Now, I don't know whether that is because of the AI don't simulate their ERS or something like that, or whether there's kind of something else with the way the AI setups work inside the game that perhaps they don't simulate dirty air. But those 4 circuits, I would say, immediately, EA need to go in, they need to kind of completely retrain the AI around those tracks to try and make them a little bit better. What's really odd as well with Silverstone, for example, is they actually made Silverstone a much better track for quite a while. They actually fixed it in the last couple of games, and then have rebroken it again, which is a little bit weird, in my personal opinion. Miami, the AI have just always been ridiculously OP there since they came in and back on F122. Your game plan is basically you lose a load of time down the straights and then try to gain it all back through the switchback section at the end of Sector 2. Shanghai, again, they just... where they've got traction control, they're far too quick on the exits, especially of like the snail section out into the back straight. Again, I think they've got a bit too much straight line speed as well. I would say they need to up the AI's wing angles by like 6 or 7 to give you a better chance against them. And then Circuit of the Americas, it's mainly one corner around Kota. The final left-hander of the S's, they're just so OP. They can get the throttle down so early. You know, they don't make mistakes through there, which is a really, really difficult corner to try and get right as well. So I would say those are the 4 tracks that EA need to go back through desperately and obviously remodel the AI as well. I was honestly hoping when they announced that Miami was going to be laser scan for F125 that they were going to fix this, but they haven't, and that is a big, big shame. Quick side note as well, whilst I remember it, the laser scan circuits are fantastic. I hope we're going to see more and more of those implemented inside the game as well. First and foremost, please update Mexico. It is by far and away like the most outdated circuit on the games. It desperately needs to overhaul. So I hope, you know, Mexico is kind of the first priority, I would say, for laser scan circuits. Monza, I would like to see kind of tweaks and changes to that venue as well. Singapore is probably another great example. I understand that one is very, very difficult to really implement. And last but not least, I would say, again, a really tough one, Monaco. I would love to see kind of some updates to that venue as well, ready for F126. Now, the other one as well, I'd originally recorded this video and I've had to redo it because they have made it a lot better. It's not perfect, but it is better, and that is the AI in wet weather. They are still OP in the rain, especially in changeable conditions, especially on a dry, or it's more kind of a track getting wetter and wetter. They're just a bit too strong still. Again, I understand it's because the AI have got traction control built in, that obviously, you know, naturally they are going to be a bit better in those conditions, but how you can go from like half a second a lap faster around some circuits to 1, 2, even, you know, around a track like Miami, you're 3 seconds a lap slower than the AI in the rain is just really unfair. And, you know, I think for a lot of people that have just got the game as well, has immediately kind of turned them away. If they get like a wet Australian Grand Prix right at the start of the year, or a wet Shanghai, they're just going to get absolutely destroyed, and it's not fun. And then generally they don't play the game as much, which is a little bit of a shame as well. All of this again ties into the fact that it feels like every single weekend you're having to change the AI difficulty inside the game as well. You know, I've seen people kind of commenting on about it, you know, kind of new players to the game, that they'll go to Australia, they'll race on like 80 AI, do really well, up it to like 90 for Shanghai, and then get absolutely destroyed. Bring it back down to 85 for Japan. Again, it's another track where the AI are very good. Bring it down to 80. You get to Bahrain and Jeddah, and you absolutely destroy the AI again. It needs to be more balanced. I understand that everybody is going to have tracks they're better at and tracks they're worse at, but the fact that, you know, even someone like me that can race 110 around some circuits is having to bring it down to like 104 around others to try and get a good race out of it, it does desperately need rebalancing as well. You know, EA, if you want me to help with that, I would do that quite happily. I'd go through and do some races and hopefully try and fix the AI as well for F126. But yeah, the wet weather as well, that just needs a whole overhaul. I think what they've done with kind of changing around the way the grip works in the rain is fantastic. I love that side of it, but it feels like they didn't reprogram the AI, and that's kind of been the big problem with that, that the AI is still OP, as they normally are inside the game as well. And kind of the last change, hopefully wouldn't be too big, because it should just be Alt-Control-Delete. F1 World, just... I say it every year, I know I keep doing it, and I don't think they're going to get rid of F1 World. It doesn't work. I played around with it for like a couple of hours last week. I'm basically trying to go through on some of my streams and try and 100% F125. And F1 World I already know is going to be like the most grindy aspect of that. It's not fun, it's really repetitive, it's really boring. I understand, you know, that EA's kind of hope with it to begin with is the, you know, people that want to jump in and play for like 20 minutes a night on the game are going to want to do that. But they can do like 5-lap career modes, you know, give us the option of like 15% races in career mode if someone just wants to do like a, you know, a 20-minute race or something like that, you know. We're still getting 25% or even 50% races in F1 World that nobody wants to do anyway, you know, to get very little reward for it at the end. I mean, as soon as I've got all the achievements for F1 World inside F125, I won't go back to the game mode. Nobody will go back to the game mode. It's just really repetitive, really boring. They clearly have put so much resource into it. And, you know, I remember telling them pre-F120, you know, whenever it came out, like 21 or 22, it wasn't going to be popular, it wasn't going to be played, and still they've continued to really kind of try and grind on with it as well. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the comments below. Have you kind of found anything else that you think drastically needs changing for F125? Are you having a lot of fun with the game? Do you love F1 World for whatever reason? If so, please explain to me why, because I can just not understand that as well. But yeah, like I said, I think F125 has been a really good success so far. There are just a few tweaks and changes that I think, you know, are kind of systematic from the ground up updates that need to be tweaked. So that's why I'm doing this video now, ready for F126 in the future. But yeah, leave a comment. Get yourself subscribed to the channel as well. If you want early access to all these videos, make sure you hit the join button down below. But yeah, normal service will resume tomorrow. We're going to be back with career mode. We're out in Baku for that, and let me tell you, I've recorded that video. It is wild.